I was 13 years old when I stopped being a daughter and became merchandise. The word they used was zawaj, marriage. But let me tell you what it really was, a transaction. My father shook hands with a man who could have been my grandfather, and in that handshake, I ceased to exist as a human being. I became a price tag. $5,000 and a business partnership that would secure my father's construction contracts for the next decade. That's what I was worth. Less than the used Toyota in our driveway. Less than the prayer rug my father prostrated on 5 times a day. I remember the moment I found out. Not because he sat me down with gentleness, not because my mother held my hand and prepared my heart. No. I was serving tea to guests in our living room, like I did every Thursday evening, and I heard my father's voice from the men's sitting area. Loud. Proud. Booming with that particular satisfaction men have when they've secured a good deal. Yes, the girl is ready. 13, but mature. Good hips. She'll bear many sons, inshallah. The silver tea tray in my hand started shaking. The tiny glass cups rattled against each other, and the sound, that delicate clinking, felt like my childhood shattering in real time. My aunt grabbed the tray from me before I could drop it. She didn't look at me. None of the women did. They just kept their eyes down, kept folding the pastries, kept pretending they hadn't heard my future being sold in the next room. I ran to my mother. I found her in the kitchen, her hands deep in dough, kneading bread for tomorrow's breakfast. Her knuckles were red and raw. I grabbed her arm, and flour dusted across my school uniform, the uniform I thought I'd wear for 5 more years before graduation. "Ummy," I whispered, because even in my panic I knew not to raise my voice where the men could hear. "What is Baba talking about? Who is getting married?" She didn't stop kneading. Just kept pushing the dough, folding it, pressing it down with the heels of her hands. Rhythmic. Mechanical. Like she'd done 1,000 times before. Like she'd do 1,000 times again. "You are," she said. Flat. Empty. The same tone she'd used to say, "We need more olive oil from the market." My knees buckled. I caught myself on the edge of the counter, and the cold marble pressed into my palms. "What?" "Ummy, no. I'm in school. I have exams. I want to be a..." "It doesn't matter what you want." She finally looked at me, and that's when I saw it. The deadness in her eyes. The same deadness I'd seen in my grandmother's eyes. In my aunt's eyes. In every woman in our family. The look of someone whose dreams had been buried so long ago she couldn't even remember what they'd looked like. "You're a woman now, Binti. You got your period. That means you're ready." "I'm 13. The words burst out of me before I could stop them. Too loud. Way too loud. My mother's hand shot out and clamped over my mouth. Her eyes went wide with terror, not for me, but for what my father might do if he heard me shouting. She leaned in close, and I could smell the cardamom on her breath from her morning coffee. "Listen to me," she hissed. "Your father has decided. Sheikh Abdullah is a respected man. Wealthy. Pious. You will marry him in 6 weeks. You will be grateful. You will not shame this family. Do you understand?" I tried to shake my head. Tried to scream against her palm. But she just pressed harder. "Your brothers are watching. Your father is listening. If you make trouble, it will be worse. Much worse. For both of us." Her voice cracked on that last part, and I saw a tear slide down her cheek. Just one. She blinked the rest away like they'd never existed. "This is our life, Habibti. This is what it means to be a woman. You survive. You obey. You endure. She released me and went back to her dough. I stood there, frozen, watching her hands work. The same hands that had braided my hair that morning. The same hands that had held me when I was sick. The same hands that were now sealing my fate with absolute silence. That night, I pulled out the only photo I had of myself from before my period started. I was 12 in the picture, gap-toothed and grinning, holding a certificate from the science fair. I'd won second place for my project on solar energy. My teacher had said I was brilliant. That I could be an engineer someday. I stared at that little girl's face, at her stupid, hopeful smile, and I didn't recognize her. She still believed she had a future. I ripped the photo into tiny pieces and flushed them down the toilet. Because that girl was dead now. And in 6 weeks, they'd dress her corpse in white lace and gold jewelry and call it a wedding. But here's what I didn't know yet: as I lay in my childhood bed counting down the days until my execution, there was someone watching me. Someone who saw me, really saw me, not as property or a burden or a womb to fill with sons. Someone who'd been waiting for the moment when I'd finally be desperate enough to hear his voice. His name was Jesus. And he was about to wreck everything. Sheikh Abdullah came to our house 3 days after the announcement. I watched him from behind the curtain that separated the women's quarters from the men's sitting room, the invisible wall that had divided my entire existence into allowed and forbidden. My mother had dressed me in my best hijab, the emerald green one with embroidered edges that she'd been saving for special occasions. She'd lined my eyes with kohl and pinched my cheeks to bring color to them. She was preparing me like you'd prepare a lamb for slaughter, making it pretty so no one would notice it was about to die. "Stand straight," she whispered, adjusting my headscarf so not a single hair showed. "Smile if he looks at you. Lower your eyes. Don't speak unless he asks you a direct question. And for the love of Allah, do not embarrass your father." Through the gap in the curtain, I could see him. Sheikh Abdullah. My future husband. He was enormous, not fat, but solid, like a mountain that had settled into itself over decades. His beard was completely gray, neatly trimmed and oiled. He wore a pristine white thobe and an expensive watch that caught the light every time he lifted his tea glass. His hands were thick, with gold rings on 3 fingers. Hands that had lived 62 years. Hands that would soon own every inch of my 13-year-old body. I felt vomit rising in my throat. My father was animated in a way I'd rarely seen him. He laughed, actually laughed, at something Sheikh Abdullah said. He called for more sweets, more tea, more hospitality. He was performing. Showing off his generous spirit, his pious household, his obedient family. Showing off the product he was about to deliver. "Bring the girl," my father commanded. My mother's hand tightened on my shoulder. "Remember," she breathed into my ear. "This is your future. Accept it with grace." She pushed me forward, through the curtain, into the room where my childhood would officially end. I kept my eyes on the carpet, an ornate Persian rug that suddenly felt like the only safe place to look. I could feel Sheikh Abdullah's gaze on me. Examining. Appraising. The way you'd examine a car before purchase, checking for dents and defects. "Mashallah," he said, and his voice was like gravel scraping against stone. Deep. Authoritative. The voice of a man who'd never been told no in his entire life. "She is lovely. Young. Untouched. This is good. Young." He said it like it was a selling point. Like my childhood was a feature, not a tragedy. "She is obedient," my father added, as if I wasn't standing right there. As if I was a piece of furniture being described to a potential buyer. "She knows the Quran. She cooks, cleans, serves without complaint. She will make you a fine wife and give you many sons." Sons. Always sons. As if that was the only thing my body would ever be good for. "Look at me, girl." The command shot through the room like a bullet. I hesitated, just for a second, and I heard my father's sharp intake of breath. A warning. I lifted my eyes. Sheikh Abdullah was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Not quite kindness. Not quite cruelty. Something worse, ownership. Like he was already imagining me in his home, in his kitchen, in his bed. Like I was already his. "Do you submit to this marriage?" he asked. It was a trap. We both knew it. If I said no, I'd bring shame on my family. My father would beat me. My brothers would never forgive me. I'd be locked in my room until I came to my senses. And if I still refused? There were stories. Girls who disappeared. Girls found dead, their murders called accidents. Honor killings disguised as tragedies. If I said yes, I'd be signing my own death warrant. Just a slower, more socially acceptable death. My mother's eyes bored into the side of my head. My father's jaw was clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. My older brother Ahmad stood in the corner, arms crossed, face unreadable. He was 21. He'd been to university. He'd dated girls. He'd had choices. I had none. "I submit," I whispered. The words tasted like ash. Sheikh Abdullah smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. Good. A woman who knows her place is a blessing from Allah. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a velvet box. Inside was a ring, gold, with a massive emerald surrounded by tiny diamonds. It probably cost more than my father made in a year. He didn't put it on my finger himself, that would be inappropriate, touching an unmarried girl. Instead, he handed it to my father, who handed it to my mother, who slid it onto my finger. It was too big. It spun around my thin, child-sized finger, heavy and cold. "The wedding will be in 6 weeks," Sheikh Abdullah announced, standing. "I've already arranged the venue. The imam. Everything. I have 3 other wives, but you will be the youngest. The favorite, inshallah." He looked at me again, and this time there was something hungry in his gaze. "I've always preferred them young. Before the world corrupts them." I wanted to scream that I was already corrupted, that his gaze was corrupting me, that this entire moment was poisoning whatever innocence I had left. But I stayed silent. Because that's what good girls do. After he left, my father was euphoric. He hugged my brothers, shook hands with my uncles who'd been waiting in the next room. "We've secured our future," he proclaimed. "Sheikh Abdullah's connections will make us wealthy. This is a blessed day." No one said my name. No one asked if I was okay. I was invisible. A ghost at my own engagement party. That night, I locked myself in the bathroom, the only room in the house with a door I could bolt. I turned on the shower so no one would hear me, and I sobbed. Gut-wrenching, silent screams that tore through my chest and left me gasping for air. I looked at myself in the foggy mirror, at the smeared coal running down my face, at the emerald ring that kept sliding off my finger. I didn't recognize the girl staring back at me. I got down on the cold tile floor, pressed my forehead to the ground, and prayed like I'd never prayed before. "Allah," I whispered, my tears mixing with the steam. "Please. Please. I'm begging you. Kill me. Take me. I don't want this. I don't want to be a wife. I don't want to be touched by that man. I'm just a child. Please. If you're merciful, if you're really Ar-Rahman, the most merciful, then please have mercy on me. End this." I waited for an answer. For a sign. For anything. Silence. The same silence that had met every desperate prayer I'd ever prayed. The same silence that filled the mosques, the Quran recitations, the prostrations I'd been performing since I was 6 years old. I'd been taught that Allah heard everything. That He was closer than my jugular vein. That He answered the prayers of the oppressed. But He wasn't answering mine. Maybe I wasn't oppressed enough. Maybe this was my test, my qadr, my predestined fate. Maybe Allah had written child bride on my forehead before I was even born, and no amount of begging would change it. Or maybe, And this thought terrified me more than anything. Maybe Allah just didn't care about girls like me. I pulled myself up, washed my face, and opened the bathroom door. My mother was waiting in the hallway. She didn't ask if I was okay. She just looked at me with those dead eyes and said, "Get used to it, Binti. 6 weeks goes faster than you think." She was right. The days started falling away like dominoes, and with each one that passed, I felt myself disappearing. They stopped using my name. I was the bride now. Sheikh Abdullah's future wife. The girl. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the fear and rage and grief, a tiny voice whispered, "There has to be another way. There has to be someone who sees me. Someone who cares." I just didn't know yet that his name was Jesus. And I didn't know that in the darkest moment of my life, he was already planning my rescue. The wedding preparations consumed our house like a disease. Every room filled with women, aunts, cousins, neighbors, all chattering excitedly about fabrics and flowers and food. They spoke about my wedding like it was a fairy tale, like I was the luckiest girl in the world. "Sheikh Abdullah is so generous," they'd coo. "You'll live in luxury. You'll never want for anything. Except freedom. Except choice. Except my childhood." But those things didn't matter to them. They'd all been sold too. They'd all learned to call their cages blessings. And now they were teaching me to do the same. My mother took me to the bridal shop 4 weeks before the wedding. The dress had already been chosen, by Sheikh Abdullah's first wife, a woman in her 40s who'd been appointed to guide me in my wifely duties. The dress was white lace and gold embroidery, with a train so long it would take 2 people to carry it. Heavy. Suffocating. Beautiful. When they zipped me into it, I couldn't breathe. "You look like a princess," my mother said, but her voice was hollow. She was looking at me through the mirror, and for just a moment, one fleeting second, I saw something crack in her expression. Regret, maybe. Grief. But then she blinked and it was gone, replaced by that familiar numbness. I stared at my reflection. 13 years old, drowning in white fabric, my face painted like a woman's but my eyes still holding the terror of a child. "Ummi," I whispered. "Please. Please don't make me do this." She turned away, busying herself with adjusting the veil. "Don't start. I'm begging you. You're my mother. Protect me." Her hands stilled on the fabric. For a long moment, she didn't move. Then she spoke, so quietly I almost didn't hear her. "I was 12 when they married me to your father. 12. I cried every single night for a year. I begged my mother the same way you're begging me now." She finally looked at me, and her eyes were wet. "And you know what she told me? This is what it means to be a woman. You survive." "That's not surviving," I said, my voice breaking. "That's just dying slowly." "Yes." The word came out like a confession. Like a secret she'd been keeping for 30 years. "Yes, it is. But it's the only option we have. You think I want this for you? You think I don't see myself in your eyes? But what can I do? If I defend you, your father will divorce me. Your brothers will disown me. I'll have nothing. No one. At least this way, you'll be taken care of. You'll have a home. Children. A purpose. I'd rather die." She slapped me. Hard. Across the face. The crack echoed through the bridal shop, and the attendant who'd been adjusting the dress gasped and scurried away. My mother grabbed my shoulders, her fingers digging into my skin. "Don't you ever say that again. Do you understand me? Never. Girls who say that end up dead, and not by their own choice. Your father, your brothers, they'll kill you themselves before they let you bring shame on this family. So you smile. You obey. You survive. Because that's all we get." She was crying now. Really crying. And I realized something that made my stomach drop: she wasn't my enemy. She was my fellow prisoner. She'd just been locked up so long she'd forgotten what freedom looked like. I wanted to hate her. But I couldn't. Because I could see my future in her tears, 30 years from now, forcing my own daughter into a wedding dress, telling her the same lies, perpetuating the same cycle. Unless I found a way out. That night, I prayed harder than I'd ever prayed in my life. I performed wudu, the ritual washing, 3 times to make sure I was pure enough for Allah to hear me. I prostrated on my prayer mat until my forehead went numb. I recited every surah I'd memorized, every dua I'd been taught. Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, I begged, my tears soaking into the mat. You say in the Quran that you hear the oppressed. That you answer the desperate. I am both. I'm oppressed by my own family. I'm desperate beyond words. Please. Please. Stop this wedding. Change my father's heart. Make Sheikh Abdullah reject me. Give me a disease, an accident, anything. Just don't make me go through with this. I waited. Listening. Hoping for that peace everyone talked about, the sakina, the tranquility that comes when Allah accepts your prayer. Nothing. Just the sound of my own ragged breathing and the ceiling fan creaking overhead. I opened the Quran, desperately searching for something, some verse, some promise that Allah cared about girls like me. I found verses about obedience. About wives submitting to husbands. About men being guardians over women. About a woman's testimony being worth half a man's. About daughters inheriting half of what sons inherit. I found rules. Regulations. Commands. But I didn't find love. I didn't find value. I didn't find anyone who saw me, Fatima, the girl who dreamed of being an engineer, who loved science and math, who wanted to matter for something other than her womb. The more I read, the heavier the silence became. It was like screaming into a void and hearing only your own echo. Like knocking on a door that would never open. Like begging a father who'd already turned his back. Why did you make me a woman? I whispered into the darkness. Why did you curse me like this? What did I do to deserve this punishment? Was I evil in a past life? Is this my qadr, written before I was born? If you predestined this pain, then why do I feel like it's wrong? Why do I feel like I'm dying? The Quran in my lap felt like a brick. Heavy. Cold. Full of words that didn't comfort me. I thought about the women in Islamic history, the ones we were taught about. Khadija, the Prophet's first wife, 15 years older than him, a businesswoman who'd chosen her husband. Aisha, young yes, but fierce, intelligent, a scholar. But when I looked at the women around me, my mother, my aunts, my neighbors, I didn't see Khadija's. I didn't see women with choices or voices or power. I saw ghosts. Women who'd learned to disappear inside their own lives. Was that what Allah wanted for me? To vanish? To become a silent, obedient shadow who existed only to serve? 2 weeks before the wedding, they held the henna ceremony. The women gathered in our house, dozens of them, laughing, singing, dancing. They painted my hands and feet with intricate designs, symbols of fertility and prosperity and joy. I sat in the center of them all like a corpse at a funeral, and they celebrated around my dead body. My cousin Layla, 16 and married for 2 years, leaned in close while painting my palm. It's not as bad as you think, she whispered. You get used to it. The first few months are hard, but then you just stop feeling. It's better that way. Stop feeling. That was the advice. Don't fight. Don't resist. Just go numb. Does it hurt? I asked. I didn't have to specify what I meant. She knew. Her hand trembled slightly, smudging the henna. Yes, she said quietly. Every time. But you smile afterward and say thank you. That's the secret. I looked around the room at all these women, my mother, my aunts, my cousins, all of them smiling, all of them pretending, all of them dead inside. And I realized, this was it. This was the rest of my life. Decades of pretending. Decades of dying slowly. Decades of praying to a God who never answered. That night, after everyone left, I stood on my bedroom balcony and looked down at the courtyard 3 stories below. The tiles were hard. Unforgiving. It would be quick. I climbed onto the railing. The night air was cool against my henna-painted hands. I could smell jasmine from the garden. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Normal sounds. Life continuing, indifferent to my pain. If you won't save me, I whispered to Allah, then I'll save myself. I closed my eyes. And then I heard my little sister's voice from inside the room. Fatima? Are you out there? I can't sleep. Can you tell me a story? Noor. My baby sister. 8 years old, with gap teeth and wild curls and dreams of becoming a doctor. She crawled into my bed every night, making me promise that she'd go to university, that she'd be different, that she'd have choices. If I jumped, what would they tell her? What would they do to her? Would she be next? In 5 years, would she be standing on this same balcony? I climbed down. Went inside. Held my sister while she fell asleep in my arms. And I made a decision: if Allah wouldn't save me, I'd have to find someone who would. I just didn't know where to look. I didn't know that the someone I needed was already looking for me. The housemaid's name was Maria. She was Filipina, maybe 30 years old, with kind eyes and calloused hands from years of scrubbing other people's floors. She'd worked for Sheikh Abdullah's household for 5 years before being sent to prepare our home for my arrival, making sure I knew how to run his kitchen, manage his staff, serve his other wives without causing conflict. She was teaching me how a mistress should behave. But what she didn't know was that she was about to teach me something far more dangerous. It was 10 days before the wedding. Maria was showing me how Sheikh Abdullah liked his coffee: cardamom, no sugar, served in a specific porcelain cup that had belonged to his mother. I was taking notes, my hand shaking so badly the pen kept slipping. "You're terrified," Maria said softly. It wasn't a question. I nodded, not trusting my voice. She glanced toward the kitchen door, checking that we were alone. Then she did something that changed everything: she touched my hand. Gentle. Deliberate. A gesture of solidarity that crossed every social boundary in my world. "I know what it's like," she whispered. "To have no choice. To belong to someone who sees you as property. Then you understand why my voice cracked. Why I want to die. I do." She squeezed my hand. I felt the same way once. But then someone told me about a God who actually sees women. Who values them. Who died for them. My heart started pounding. I knew where this was going. I'd been warned about this my entire life. "You're Christian," I breathed. She didn't deny it. Just held my gaze with an expression I'd never seen before, not pity, not superiority, but something that looked like hope. "I can't," I pulled my hand away, standing up so fast the chair scraped against the tile. "That's haram. That's shirk. If my father found out you even spoke to me about this." "He won't. Unless you tell him." Maria stayed seated, calm. Like she'd had this conversation before. "I'm not trying to convert you, Fatima. I'm just telling you what saved my life. When I was going to end it, when I had the pills in my hand, someone gave me a book. And in that book, I met a God who actually loved me. Allah loves. Does he?" The question hung in the air like a blade. When you pray, do you feel loved? Do you feel seen? Or do you feel like you're screaming into emptiness? The truth hit me so hard I had to grip the counter to stay upright. Emptiness. That's exactly what I felt. Every prayer, every prostration, every desperate plea, just echoes in a void. "I have to go," I whispered. "Wait." Maria reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a small piece of paper, folded tight. "Just, if you ever want to understand what I'm talking about. These are some verses. From the Bible. About women Jesus met. women he valued. She placed it on the counter between us. You don't have to read it. You can throw it away. But if you're curious, it's there. She left the kitchen, and I stared at that folded paper like it was a live grenade. Everything in me screamed to throw it away. To burn it. To pretend this conversation never happened. Christians were kafir, unbelievers, hellbound, corrupted. The Bible was corrupted, changed by men, not the true word of God. I'd been taught this since I could speak. But I'd also been taught that Allah heard prayers. That He was merciful. That He cared for the oppressed. And none of that had been true for me. My hand moved on its own. I grabbed the paper, shoved it deep into my pocket, and went to my room. That night, after everyone was asleep, I locked my door and pulled out the paper with trembling hands. Maria had written in careful English, a language I'd learned in school before they'd pulled me out. John 4 verses 1 to 42, Jesus and the Samaritan woman. Luke 7 verses 36 to 50, Jesus and the sinful woman. John 8 verses 1 to 11, Jesus and the adulterous woman. Mark 5 verses 25 to 34, Jesus and the bleeding woman. Luke 8 verses 1 to 3, the women who followed Jesus. Galatians 3 verse 28, no male or female in Christ. At the bottom, she'd written, He spoke to women. He touched women. He valued women. Read it yourself. I'd hidden my brother's old phone under my mattress, a phone I wasn't allowed to have, that I'd stolen months ago and kept for emergencies. I pulled it out now, my heart hammering against my ribs, and opened the browser. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. This was it. The line. Once I crossed it, there was no going back. Reading the Bible was apostasy. If anyone found out, my father, my brothers, they could kill me. Legally. Islamically. Honorably. But I was going to die anyway, wasn't I? In 10 days, I'd die. Maybe not physically. But the girl I was, Fatima, the dreamer, the fighter, she'd be gone. Replaced by Sheikh Abdullah's fourth wife. A womb. A servant. A ghost. So what did I have to lose? I typed in the first reference, John 4. The story loaded, and I started reading about a woman at a well. A Samaritan woman, despised by Jews, with a scandalous past, 5 husbands, and living with a man who wasn't her husband. An outcast. Shamed. Avoided. And Jesus spoke to her. Not through a male guardian. Not through a curtain. Directly. To her. His disciples were shocked. The text actually said they were surprised to find him talking with a woman. Because apparently, that was radical. Revolutionary. Wrong by their cultural standards. But Jesus didn't care. He offered her living water. He told her about her life, not to condemn her, but to show her he saw her. Really saw her. And then, this part made me gasp out loud, he revealed his identity to her first. Before the disciples. Before the religious leaders. To a shamed, outcast woman, he said, I am the Messiah. And she believed him. And she ran and told her whole city. And they believed her testimony. A woman's testimony. Valued. Trusted. World-changing. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. I kept reading. The next story, a woman caught in adultery, dragged before Jesus by men ready to stone her to death. The law demanded her execution. The men demanded her blood. And Jesus said, Let him who is without sin cast the first stone. One by one, the men left. All of them. Because all of them were guilty. And then Jesus, God in flesh, the only one without sin, the only one who had the right to condemn her, said, Neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. No condemnation. No shame. No death sentence. Just, you are free. Now live differently. I was crying. I didn't even realize it until tears splashed onto the phone screen. I read about the bleeding woman, unclean for 12 years, untouchable, isolated, who grabbed Jesus' robe and was healed. And instead of rebuking her for touching him without permission, he called her daughter. He stopped for her. He honored her faith publicly. He gave her dignity. I read about Mary Magdalene, from whom Jesus cast out 7 demons, who became one of his closest followers. Who stood at the cross when the male disciples ran away. Who was the first witness to the resurrection, the most important event in history, and was sent by Jesus to tell the men. God trusted a woman with the gospel message. First, I read Galatians 3 verse 28, and the words burned into my soul, there is neither Jew nor Gentile, neither slave nor free, nor is there male and female, for you are all one in Christ Jesus. No male and female. Not in value. Not in worth. Not in God's eyes. I sat there in the darkness, phone clutched to my chest, and something inside me broke open. This God, this Jesus, he didn't see women as half. As property. As sources of temptation or shame. He saw us as human. As equal. As beloved. When women came to him broken, he healed them. When women came to him shamed, he defended them. When women came to him desperate, he saw them. I thought about Allah, the 99 names, the prayers I'd recited thousands of times. Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, the compassionate, the merciful. But I'd never felt that compassion. Never experienced that mercy. Only silence. Only rules. Only the crushing weight of being born female in a world where that was a curse. But this Jesus. Did you really speak to women? I whispered into the darkness. Did you really value them? Or is this another lie? Another trap? I didn't expect an answer. I'd stopped expecting answers. But something shifted in the room. I can't explain it. It wasn't a voice. It wasn't a vision. It was just a presence. Warm. Solid. Real. Like someone had just sat down next to me on the bed. And I felt something I hadn't felt in months, safe. Not rescued yet. Not free yet. But seen. Finally, blessedly seen. I spent the next 3 nights reading everything I could find. I read the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, John, devouring every story of Jesus interacting with women. I read about his mother Mary, honored and chosen. About Martha and Mary, his friends, whom he visited and taught. About the women who supported his ministry financially, because apparently, he had women disciples and women donors and women in his inner circle. I compared it to everything I knew. In Islam, women couldn't lead prayer. Couldn't testify equally in court. Couldn't inherit equally. Couldn't travel without male permission. Our voices were aura, shameful, to be covered. Our bodies were fitna, temptation, causing men to sin just by existing. But in these gospel stories, Jesus sought women out. He taught them theology. He defended them publicly. He touched them, the bleeding woman, the dead girl he raised, the women he healed, without fear of corruption or impurity. He treated them like people. And something dangerous started growing in my chest. Something I'd thought was dead. Hope. Jesus, I whispered on the 7th night before my wedding. If you're real, if you really see women the way these stories say, then please. Please. See me. I don't know how to pray to you. I don't know the right words. But I'm drowning. And Allah won't throw me a rope. So if you're out there, if you're listening, help me. It wasn't a conversion prayer. It wasn't a decision. It was just a desperate girl throwing a message in a bottle into the void, hoping someone, anyone, would catch it. I didn't know yet that he already had. I didn't know that my rescue was already in motion. I didn't know that the God who'd stopped for a bleeding woman in a crowd was about to stop the entire trajectory of my life. But I was about to find out. The wedding was in 3 days. My dress hung in my closet like a ghost. The house smelled of cooking, endless trays of baklava and mamul, rice dishes, and lamb, enough food to feed 200 guests who'd come to watch a child be sacrificed on the altar of tradition. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. I'd lost so much weight that my mother kept forcing spoonfuls of honey down my throat, worried I'd look sickly in the photos. "Your skin and bones," she hissed. "Sheikh Abdullah will think we starved you." I wanted to laugh. Starved? Yes. But not for food. For freedom. For dignity. For a God who actually answered. I'd been reading the Bible every night, hidden under my blankets with the phone brightness turned down to almost nothing. I'd finished the Gospels and started reading the letters: Paul, Peter, James. I was searching for something. Some answer. Some way out. But the wedding kept creeping closer, and Jesus remained silent. Maybe I'd imagined that presence in my room. Maybe it was just desperation making me hallucinate comfort where there was none. Maybe the Christians were just as deluded as I'd been, praying to a God who didn't actually intervene. It was the night before the wedding when everything changed. I couldn't stay in the house anymore. The walls were crushing me. The women's laughter downstairs, final preparations, last-minute decorations, felt like demons celebrating. I told my mother I needed air, and surprisingly, she let me go to the roof. "Don't be long," she said. "And don't let the neighbors see you. A bride should be hidden until her wedding day." Hidden. Always hidden. I climbed the stairs to the roof and stepped out into the night. The city sprawled below me, 1,000 lights, 1,000,000 lives, all of them mattering more than mine. The call to prayer echoed from a nearby mosque, the muezzin's voice haunting and beautiful and empty. How many times had I heard that call? How many times had I prayed in response? Thousands. And God had never answered. Not once. I walked to the edge of the roof and looked down. 4 stories. Concrete below. It would be quick. Cleaner than living through tomorrow. More merciful than becoming Sheikh Abdullah's plaything. "I can't do it," I whispered to the night sky. "I can't marry him. I can't survive this. Allah, if you're there, if you ever cared about me, please. Kill me now. Let me fall. Let it be an accident. Just don't make me wake up tomorrow." Silence. Always silence. "Fine." I screamed it, not caring who heard anymore. "You don't answer? You don't care? Then I don't need you. I don't need a God who makes women suffer and calls it destiny. I don't need Fatima." The voice stopped my heart. It came from behind me. Male. Gentle. Resonant, like it was echoing from somewhere both inside and outside of me at the same time. I spun around. And he was there. I don't know how to explain it. He wasn't glowing. Wasn't floating. He looked human. Completely human. A man in simple clothes, a long tunic, dark beard, brown skin, calloused hands like a carpenter's. Middle Eastern, like me. He could have walked past me on the street and I wouldn't have looked twice. Except his eyes. Oh God, his eyes. They were looking at me like I was the only person in the universe. Like I mattered. Like he'd been searching for me my whole life and had finally found me. Brown eyes, warm and deep and absolutely full of something I'd never seen directed at me before. Love. Not the sick possession I'd seen in Sheikh Abdullah's gaze. Not the cold duty in my father's. Not even the conflicted grief in my mother's. Pure, unconditional, blazing love. "Who?" My voice came out as a whisper. "Who are you?" He smiled. Sad and beautiful at the same time. "You know who I am, Fatima. You've been reading about me for 7 days." My knees went weak. "Jesus?" "Yes. But this isn't, I'm not," I couldn't form words. My brain was short-circuiting. Am I dying? Is this a hallucination? Did I fall? "You're not dying." He took a step closer, and I should have been terrified, a strange man on a roof at night, but I wasn't. I felt safer than I'd ever felt in my life. And you're not hallucinating. I'm real, Fatima. I've always been real. You've been calling out to me, and I heard you. Every prayer. Every tear. Every desperate scream into the darkness. I heard all of it. The tears came then, hot and unstoppable. Then where were you? Why didn't you answer? I've been dying, and you just watched. I never just watched. His voice cracked, and I realized with shock that he was crying too. Every time your father spoke to you like property, I wept. Every time you begged Allah for mercy and heard silence, I was screaming your name, trying to break through the walls you'd been taught to build. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, I sat beside your bed and caught every tear. I've been here, Fatima. You just didn't know how to see me yet. I don't understand. Why? Why me? I'm nobody. I'm just a girl about to be sold to an old man. I'm worthless. Stop. The word wasn't loud, but it commanded the entire atmosphere. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides and dropped to his knees. Jesus, God in flesh, creator of the universe, King of kings, knelt in front of me. Look at me, he said softly. I couldn't. I was too ashamed. Too dirty. Too broken. Fatima. Please. Look at me. I lifted my eyes, and fresh tears blurred my vision. He reached up slowly, giving me time to pull away if I wanted, and cupped my face with both hands. His palms were rough and warm, and I could see scars on his wrists, thick, brutal scars like someone had driven nails through them. You are not worthless, he said, and each word landed like a hammer breaking chains. You are not property. You are not a commodity or a burden or a shame to be hidden. You are my daughter. My beloved. My treasure. I formed you in your mother's womb. I numbered every hair on your head. I designed your mind, that brilliant, curious mind that loves science and mathematics and dreams of building things. I gave you that hunger for justice, that fire in your soul that refuses to accept lies as truth. You are exactly who I created you to be. But I'm a woman, I choked out. I'm less. The Quran says. The Quran is not my word. He said it gently but firmly. I don't see male and female as greater or lesser. I see souls. Equally precious. Equally loved. Equally mine. When I created humanity, I made them in my image, both male and female. Not one as the master and one as the servant. As equals. Partners. Companions. Both reflecting different facets of who I am. Then why? I was sobbing now, ugly crying, my whole body shaking. Why did I have to be born here? In this family? In this religion? Why couldn't I have been born free? Because I need you here. He brushed my tears away with his thumbs. There are millions of girls just like you, Fatima. Trapped. Voiceless. Told they're worthless. Married off as children. Beaten. Broken. Believing that God doesn't love them. And they need someone who understands. Someone who's walked through the fire and came out the other side. Someone who can tell them, Jesus sees you. Jesus values you. Jesus will fight for you. But I'm not strong enough. You don't have to be. I am. He pulled me forward, and suddenly I was in his arms, fully embraced, held like a father holds a daughter, like I'd never been held in my entire life. Safe. Protected. Valued. I didn't bring you this far to abandon you, my daughter. Tomorrow, you will not marry Sheikh Abdullah. I am breaking every chain. I am tearing down every wall. I am rescuing you. Do you trust me? It was an insane question. Trust a God I'd just met? Trust a man kneeling on a rooftop who claimed to be the Son of God? Trust anything when my entire life had taught me that trust was a trap? But when I looked into his eyes, those impossibly loving, infinitely patient eyes, I couldn't lie. I don't know how to trust, I whispered. But I want to. I'm so tired of being afraid. I'm so tired of being worthless. Then let me carry you. He pulled back just enough to look at me. Fatima, I'm asking you to give me your life. Not as property, I don't own you like Sheikh Abdullah wants to own you. I'm asking you to choose me. To let me love you the way you were always meant to be loved. To follow me even when it's terrifying. To become my daughter, fully, completely, eternally. Will you? Somewhere below, I could hear my mother calling my name. The wedding preparations were waiting. The dress was hanging. The guests were coming. My fate was sealed. Or it was sealed. Until now. If I say yes, I said slowly, what happens to me? My family will kill me. You know that, right? Honor killing. It's not even illegal here. They'll say I shamed them, and they'll. I know. His face was grave. Following me will cost you everything. Your family. Your safety. Your home. Maybe even your life. I won't lie to you, the road ahead is hard. But Fatima, you're already dying. Right now, in this moment, you're dying. I'm offering you life. Real life. Abundant life. Eternal life. A life where you matter. Where your voice matters. Where your dreams matter. Where you matter. I thought about tomorrow. The dress. The ceremony. Sheikh Abdullah's hands on me. Decades of silent suffering. Becoming my mother, dead-eyed and hollow, going through motions, calling slavery destiny. Then I thought about the women in the Bible. The Samaritan woman who met Jesus and ran to tell her city. Mary Magdalene who witnessed the resurrection and became the first evangelist. The women who followed Jesus, supported him, stood by him even when the men ran away. Women who mattered. Yes, I whispered. Yes. I don't understand how this is going to work. I don't understand how you're going to save me. But yes. I choose you. I choose life. I choose, my voice broke. I choose to be your daughter. He smiled then, radiant, joyful, proud, and suddenly the entire rooftop was filled with light. Not from him. From me. Like something inside my chest had ignited, burning away years of shame and fear and worthlessness. You are mine, he declared, and the words felt like a royal decree stamped onto my soul. You are my beloved daughter in whom I am well pleased. And no one, not your father, not Sheikh Abdullah, not the devil himself, can snatch you out of my hand. Do you believe that? I believe, I said. And for the first time in my life, I meant it. He stood, pulling me to my feet, and kissed my forehead like a father blessing his child. Then watch what I do tomorrow, daughter. Watch how I move mountains. Watch how I part red seas. Watch how I save you. And remember this moment. Because you're going to tell this story for the rest of your life. And it's going to set thousands of captives free. And then he was gone. Not disappeared, just, not there anymore. Like he'd stepped back through a door I couldn't see. I stood on the roof, staring at my hands, feeling the warmth still radiating through my body. I wasn't the same girl who'd climbed those stairs 30 minutes ago. That girl was dead. And I, Fatima, daughter of the Most High God, was alive. Truly alive. For the first time ever. Tomorrow was my wedding day. But Jesus had just promised me a rescue. And I'd just learned something that would change everything. When the God of the universe makes a promise, nothing can stop it from coming true. The morning of my wedding, I woke up with no fear. It should have been impossible. I should have been paralyzed with terror. But instead, I felt steady. Like someone had poured concrete into my spine. Like I was standing on solid ground for the first time in my life. Jesus had promised me a rescue. And somehow, impossibly, I believed him. My mother came into my room at dawn, her face already painted with forced joy. "Today's the day, Binti," she said, laying out my undergarments, the elaborate jewelry, the suffocating layers I'd have to wear. "You'll be a wife by sunset. A woman." I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw her differently than I ever had before. She wasn't my enemy. She was another casualty. Another daughter who'd been sacrificed and had learned to call it destiny. "Ummi," I said softly. "Do you ever wish you'd run?" Her hand stilled on the pearl necklace she was untangling. For a long moment, she didn't answer. "Then, every single day of my life." The admission hung between us like a ghost. "Then why didn't you?" "Because there was nowhere to run to." She finally looked at me, and her eyes were swimming with 30 years of buried grief. "No money. No education. No family who would take me in. Where would I go? What would I do? At least married, I had a roof. Food. Children. A purpose. Running would have meant dying alone in the streets. What if dying alone was better than dying slowly in a cage?" She flinched like I'd slapped her. "Don't say that. Not today. You're going to be fine. You're going to." "I'm not marrying him." The words came out calm. Clear. Final. My mother's face went white. "What?" "I'm not marrying Sheikh Abdullah. I can't. I won't." "Fatima," she grabbed my arms, her nails digging into my skin. "Listen to me. It's normal to be scared. Every bride is scared. But you can't say this. Not now. The guests are coming. The food is prepared. Your father, oh Allah, your father will kill you if you shame him like this." "I know." "Then why?" "Because I met someone who told me I'm worth more than this." The peace in my voice seemed to terrify her more than if I'd been screaming. "Someone who said I'm not property. That I'm loved. That I don't have to accept this just because it's tradition." Her eyes widened with horror. "Who have you been talking to? Was it that Christian maid?" "I knew we shouldn't have let her near you." "It was Jesus." My mother actually stumbled backward. You've gone insane. The stress has broken your mind. You're having a nervous breakdown. I'll call the doctor." "I'm not insane, Ummi. I'm seeing clearly for the first time in my life." I stood up, and even though I was 13 and small and powerless by every worldly measure, I felt tall. Strong. Unshakable. Last night, Jesus came to me. He spoke to me. He told me I'm his daughter. And he promised to rescue me. Jesus is a prophet, not God. You're committing shirk. She pressed her hands to her head, pacing frantically. "Your father can't hear this. Your brothers can't hear this. They'll kill you, Fatima. Do you understand? Not as a metaphor. They will actually kill you and call it honor." "I know. But I'd rather die belonging to Jesus than live belonging to Sheikh Abdullah." My mother stared at me like I was a stranger. Then she ran from the room, and I heard her urgent whispers in the hallway. Calling my father. Calling my brothers. This was it. The moment of reckoning. I dressed quickly, not in the wedding dress, but in my simple clothes. Jeans. A t-shirt. My hijab, because I knew taking it off now would be pouring gasoline on fire. I grabbed the phone I'd hidden and Maria's note, tucking both into my pockets. Then I knelt on the floor and prayed. Not to Allah. To Jesus. "I don't know what you're going to do," I whispered. "I don't know how you're going to save me. But I trust you. I'm yours. Whatever happens, even if they kill me, I'm yours. And that's enough." The door slammed open. My father stood in the doorway, and I'd never seen him look like this, face purple with rage, veins bulging in his neck, hands clenched into fists. Behind him, my 3 brothers. My mother, crying. My aunts, whispering frantically. "What?" my father roared, "is this filth your mother is telling me?" I stood up slowly. Every instinct screamed to cower, to beg forgiveness, to take it all back. But that steady peace, Jesus' presence, held me upright. "It's true, Baba. I'm not marrying Sheikh Abdullah. And I'm not a Muslim anymore. I follow Jesus now." The slap came so fast I didn't see it. My head snapped to the side, and I tasted blood. The room erupted in chaos, my mother screaming, my aunts gasping, my brothers shouting. My father grabbed me by the throat and slammed me against the wall. "You dare," he hissed, his face inches from mine. "You dare bring this shame into my house? After everything I've done for you? After the honor Sheikh Abdullah has shown us?" I couldn't breathe. His grip was crushing my windpipe. Black spots danced in my vision. "You will go downstairs," he said through gritted teeth. "You will put on that dress. You will marry that man. And you will never speak of this Christian blasphemy again. Do you understand?" I managed to shake my head. Just slightly. His eyes went dead. Cold. The look I'd feared my entire life. He released my throat and stepped back. "Ahmad. Bring the car around. We're taking her to your uncle's house in the country. If she won't submit, she'll be dealt with according to Islamic law." My oldest brother nodded and left immediately. No hesitation. No question. Just obedience. They were going to kill me. Take me somewhere remote, somewhere the neighbors wouldn't hear, and execute me for apostasy. For shaming the family honor. This was it. This was how I died. "Jesus," I whispered, my voice wrecked from being choked. "You promised." Silence. My father backhanded me again, and I fell to the floor. "You don't speak that name in my house. You cursed, wretched." The entire house shook. Not metaphorically. Literally shook. Like an earthquake, but focused, just our house, not the neighbors, not the street. Picture frames rattled. Dishes crashed in the kitchen. My mother screamed. And then the light. It came through my bedroom window, impossibly bright, like someone had turned on a spotlight that could illuminate the sun. Everyone froze, shielding their eyes, and in that blazing radiance, I saw him. Jesus. Standing between me and my father. Not physically, I don't think anyone else could actually see him, but I could. As real as he'd been on the rooftop. He looked at my father with such authority that my father actually stumbled backward. "Enough," Jesus said. And though his voice was quiet, it commanded the atmosphere. "You will not touch her again." The light faded as suddenly as it came. The shaking stopped. Everything went deathly silent. My father stood there, trembling, staring at his own hands like they'd betrayed him. My brothers were frozen in the doorway. My mother had collapsed to her knees, sobbing. And then we heard the sirens. Police sirens. Multiple cars. Screeching to a halt outside our house. My father's face went from rage to confusion to fear. "What? How?" Pounding on the front door. "Police. Open up. We have a warrant for the arrest of Muhammad al-Rashid." My father's eyes went wide. Warrant? For what? But I knew. Somehow, I knew. Jesus had moved. Not just spiritually. Physically. He'd orchestrated something in the natural world. My brother Hassan ran to the window and looked out. "Baba, there are 6 police cars. And a news van? A news van?" The pounding came again. "Open this door or we're breaking it down." My father looked at me, and for the first time in my life, I saw something besides cold authority in his eyes. Terror. "What did you do?" he whispered. "I didn't do anything," I said. "Jesus did." He ran downstairs. We all followed, everyone wanting to see what was happening, the wedding preparations forgotten in the chaos. When my father opened the door, police flooded in. 6 officers, led by a woman in plainclothes, a detective, I realized. Muhammad al-Rashid, she said crisply. You're under arrest for human trafficking, child endangerment, and conspiracy to commit forced marriage. What? This is insane. We received an anonymous tip last night with detailed documentation. Bank transfers showing the bride price payment. Text messages between you and Sheikh Abdullah discussing your daughter's age. Photos of the wedding preparations. She held up a tablet showing evidence I'd never seen, never collected. Sheikh Abdullah was arrested an hour ago. He's already confessing to purchasing multiple child brides. And you, sir, are complicit. My father's face went from red to gray. She's my daughter. This is family business. Islamic marriage. You can't. Actually, we can. Child marriage is illegal in this country, even if it's religiously motivated. You sold your 13-year-old daughter to a 62-year-old man. That's trafficking. She looked past him and saw me, bruised and bloodied from my father's blows. Her expression hardened. And that looks like assault. Officers, take him. They moved forward, and my father lunged at me. You set me up. You betrayed your own family. But he never reached me. One officer tackled him. Another grabbed my brother Ahmad, who'd moved to defend our father. The house descended into absolute chaos, my mother wailing, my aunt screaming, neighbors gathering outside, news cameras rolling. And in the midst of it all, the female detective came directly to me. Fatima, she asked gently. I nodded, unable to speak. You're safe now. We're taking you into protective custody. There's a women's shelter prepared for you, secure, private, with counselors who specialize in honor violence cases. You'll never have to come back here. Do you understand? I understood. Jesus had done exactly what he'd promised. He'd rescued me. Not by making me invisible, not by teleporting me away, but by moving the systems, the law, the authorities, the world, to protect me. How? My voice was barely a whisper. How did you get the evidence? She smiled slightly. The tip came from an international human rights organization. They'd been investigating Sheikh Abdullah for months, and someone gave them information about your case specifically. We've been building the case all night. The timing was remarkable. Remarkable. That's what she called it. I called it a miracle. As they led my father and brother out in handcuffs, my father spitting curses, swearing vengeance, screaming about family honor, I looked at my mother. She was staring at me with an expression I couldn't read. Not hatred. Not quite admiration. Something like wonder. And grief. And maybe, just maybe, the smallest flicker of hope. He really came for you, she whispered. You're Jesus. He'll come for you too, Ummi, I said. If you call him. He saves daughters. All daughters. She looked away, tears streaming down her face. But she didn't argue. The detective put her hand on my shoulder. Are you ready? I looked back at the house, the only home I'd ever known. At the wedding dress hanging in my closet. At the life I was leaving behind forever. Then I looked at the open door. At the daylight streaming in. At the freedom waiting. Yes, I said. I'm ready. And I walked out. A daughter. Not of Muhammad al-Rashid. But of Jesus Christ. And nothing, not honor, not shame, not tradition, not death itself, could ever take that away. The women's shelter was hidden on the outskirts of the city, behind high walls and security gates that required 3 separate codes to enter. They didn't tell me the address. They didn't tell anyone. That was the point. I arrived in an unmarked police car, still wearing my blood-stained t-shirt, still tasting copper from where my father's ring had split my lip. The detective, her name was Layla, I learned later, walked me through the metal detector, past cameras, through locked doors that clicked shut behind us with mechanical finality. Each lock felt like a chain breaking. "This is Sister Amira," Detective Layla said, introducing me to a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and no hijab, unusual for a woman with that title. "She runs the shelter. You'll be safe here, Fatima. I promise." Sister Amira embraced me like I was her own daughter. "Welcome home, Habibti," she whispered. And I broke down completely. Just collapsed in her arms and sobbed, 13 years of terror and pain and grief pouring out of me in ugly, gasping wails. She held me through all of it. Didn't shush me. Didn't tell me to be strong. Just let me fall apart. "That's it," she murmured, stroking my hair. "Let it out. You're safe now. You survived. You're alive." When I finally could breathe again, she led me through the shelter. It was simple but clean, a converted house with multiple bedrooms, a communal kitchen, a living room with mismatched furniture and children's toys scattered across the floor. And women. So many women. Some wore hijabs. Some didn't. Some had visible bruises healing on their faces. Others carried invisible wounds. They looked up as I entered, and I saw my own story reflected in their eyes. Survivors. All of us. "This is Fatima," Sister Amira announced. "She escaped a forced marriage. She's 13. And she's one of us now." A young woman, maybe early 20s, stood up from the couch and came directly to me. She had a scar across her cheek and burn marks on her arms. "I'm Rania," she said softly. "I was 16 when my husband poured acid on me for talking to a male cousin. I've been here 2 years." She smiled, and despite everything, it was genuine. "You made it out, sister. That's the hardest part. Everything else, we'll face together." I met them all that first day. Zara, 43, who'd fled with her 4 children after 20 years of brutal domestic violence. Noor, 17, pregnant from marital rape, disowned by her family for leaving her husband. Layla, 19, who'd been sold to her cousin at 14 and beaten daily for 5 years. And Samira, 25. Scars on her wrists from where she'd tried to end it before finding this place. We were all different ages. Different backgrounds. Different stories. But we shared one thing: we'd all chosen life when death seemed easier. That night, Sister Amira brought me to a small bedroom with a single bed, a dresser, and a window with bars on it, for protection, not imprisonment. "This is yours," she said. "No one can touch you here. No one can force you to do anything. Your body is yours. Your choices are yours. Do you understand?" I nodded, too overwhelmed to speak. She handed me a bag. Clean clothes. Toiletries. And this. She pulled out a book. A Bible. "Maria, the housemaid," she called us. "She's the one who contacted the human rights organization with your information. She risked her job. Maybe her life. To save you. Maria. The woman who'd given me that folded paper. The woman who'd introduced me to Jesus. Is she okay?" "She's fine. Your family doesn't know it was her. They think it was some international investigation." Sister Amira smiled. "God protects his daughters. In ways we don't always expect." After she left, I sat on the bed, my bed, the first bed I'd ever had that was truly mine, and opened the Bible. A note fell out, written in Maria's careful handwriting. "Dear Fatima. You did it. You chose Jesus. You chose life. I am so proud of you, little sister. The road ahead will be hard. You've lost your family. Your home. Everything familiar. But you've gained eternity. You've gained freedom. You've gained a father who will never sell you, never hurt you, never abandon you." Read Psalm 27 verse 10. It's for you. I'm praying for you every day. Your sister in Christ, Maria. I flipped to Psalm 27 verse 10, and the words blurred through my tears. Though my father and mother forsake me, the Lord will receive me. I lay down on that narrow bed, clutching the Bible to my chest, and for the first time in months, I slept. Really slept. No nightmares. No fear. Just deep, bone-tired rest. Because I was held. Not by walls or locks. But by the arms of God. The next days were a fog of legal proceedings, police interviews, counselors asking gentle questions about my trauma. Detective Layla told me that my father and Sheikh Abdullah were both facing serious charges. That my brothers were under investigation. That my case had sparked a national conversation about child marriage and honor violence. You're becoming famous, she said carefully. The news isn't using your name, but people are calling you the girl who said no. You're a symbol now. I didn't want to be a symbol. I just wanted to be safe. But Sister Amira said something that stuck with me. God doesn't waste pain, Habibti. Your story will set others free. You'll see. 3 weeks after my escape, my mother came to the shelter. I didn't know she was coming. Sister Amira just told me I had a visitor and led me to a private meeting room with a social worker present, protocol for family contact. My mother sat in a plastic chair, looking 20 years older than the last time I'd seen her. Her hijab was wrinkled. Her eyes were red and swollen. Her hand shook as she twisted a tissue between her fingers. We stared at each other across an impossible divide. Ummi, I finally whispered. Don't. Her voice was raw. Broken. Don't call me that. I don't deserve it. What do you? I let them sell you. The words came out like shards of glass. I knew what was happening. I knew you were dying inside. And I did nothing. I told you to submit. To accept it. To survive. She looked up at me, and the guilt in her eyes was staggering. I sacrificed you to save myself. What kind of mother does that? I didn't have an answer. Your father is in prison, she continued. Ahmad too. The family is destroyed. Your uncles won't speak to me. The neighbors spit on our doorstep. We're shamed. Everything we tried to protect, the honor we sold you for, it's gone. She started crying. Not delicate tears. Ugly, choking sobs. And all I can think about is that you were right. You were right to run. Right to choose that Jesus over us. Because we were killing you. Slowly. And calling it love. I moved around the table before I could stop myself. Knelt in front of her. Took her shaking hands in mine. Ummi, I forgive you. She looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. How? How can you forgive me? Because Jesus forgave me. For years of hating myself. For believing I was worthless. For almost ending my life. He forgave all of it. And he told me to forgive others the same way. I squeezed her hands. I'm not saying what you did was okay. It wasn't. But I'm saying I won't carry hatred for you anymore. You were a prisoner too. And prisoners can't free other prisoners. She sobbed harder, and I held her while she fell apart. When she finally could speak again, she whispered, Tell me about him. You're Jesus. Tell me how he saved you. So I did. Right there in that little room, with the social worker quietly weeping in the corner, I told my mother everything. The rooftop encounter. The light. The rescue. The peace that made no sense. The love that changed everything. He sees you too, Ummi, I said. He's waiting for you. Right now. You just have to call his name. But I'm so guilty. So much blood on my hands. He specializes in the guilty. Read the Bible, Ummi. Every person he saves is broken. That's the point. He doesn't wait for us to clean ourselves up. He does the cleaning. My mother left that day without converting. Without making a decision. But she took the Bible I offered her. And she hugged me, really hugged me, for the first time since I was a little girl. "I'm so sorry, Binti," she whispered into my hair. "I'm so sorry." "I know, Ummi. I know." I never saw my father again. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. My brothers were given probations and restraining orders. Sheikh Abdullah got 15 years, they'd found 4 other child brides he'd purchased over the decades. The news cycle moved on. The case faded from headlines. Life continued. But for me, everything was different. I stayed at the shelter for 6 months. During that time, Sister Amira, who turned out to be a former Muslim who'd converted to Christianity decades ago, taught me everything. How to read the Bible. How to pray. How to live as a follower of Jesus in a world that wanted me dead for that choice. "You need to understand something," she said one evening. "Your family might come for you. Honor killings don't stop just because there's a restraining order. You'll need to be careful. Always aware. Maybe even leave the country eventually." I know. I'd thought about it constantly. The price of following Jesus wasn't just losing my family. It was living with a target on my back forever. "Is it worth it?" she asked softly. "Knowing what it costs?" I thought about the girl I'd been, hopeless, voiceless, waiting to die. And I thought about the girl I was becoming, alive, seen, loved by the God of the universe. "Yes," I said without hesitation. 1,000 times yes. I'd rather have one day as Jesus' daughter than a lifetime as someone's property. Sister Amira smiled. "Then you're ready." "Ready for what?" "To tell your story." I never thought I'd stand in front of a camera and tell the world what happened to me. But here I am. 3 years later. 16 years old now. Living in a new country under a new name, for my protection, but still Fatima in my heart. Still the girl Jesus rescued on a rooftop. Still his daughter. The shelter became my home for 18 months. During that time, Sister Amira connected me with an organization that helps persecuted Christians and trafficking survivors. They arranged my asylum. Got me out of the country legally. Set me up in a safe house with other young women who'd escaped similar situations. That's where I am now. A house with 6 bedrooms, each one occupied by a survivor. A sister. A daughter of the king who refused to bow to earthly kings. There's Yasmin, 19, from Iran. Her family threw acid on her for converting to Christianity. Half her face is scarred, but when she worships Jesus, she's the most beautiful person I've ever seen. There's Aisha, 21, from Pakistan. She was gang-raped by her cousins and then blamed for it, called a whore, a shame, a disgrace. Until Jesus told her she was pure. Blameless. Beloved. Now she leads our Bible study every Thursday night. There's Maryam, 17, from Saudi Arabia. She was caught with a Bible and sentenced to flogging. A Christian lawyer helped her escape before the punishment could be carried out. She still has nightmares. But she also has joy, the kind that only comes from knowing you're free. We're all broken. All healing. All learning what it means to be women who are valued. And we're all telling our stories. The organization that saved me asked if I'd be willing to share my testimony. "There are millions of girls just like you," they said. Trapped in forced marriages. Suffering under honor violence. Believing God doesn't see them. Your story could save lives. I was terrified. What if my family found me? What if speaking out made me a bigger target? But then I remembered what Jesus said on that rooftop, "You're going to tell this story for the rest of your life. And it's going to set thousands of captives free." So I said yes. This video, the one you're watching right now, is my first public testimony. My face is obscured for safety. My voice is slightly altered. But my story is real. Every word of it. And sister, if you're watching this, I need you to hear me. If you're a Muslim woman who's been told you're worth less than your brothers, that's a lie. Jesus says you're priceless. Made in the image of God. Equal in value, in worth, in His eyes. If you're trapped in a forced marriage, suffering abuse, being treated like property, that's not love. That's not God's plan. Jesus came to set captives free. And you, precious sister, are a captive He wants to rescue. If you've been taught that your testimony doesn't matter, that your voice is shameful, that your only purpose is to serve and obey and disappear, that's slavery. Jesus calls you daughter. He calls you friend. He calls you by name. I know you're scared. Believe me, I know. I know what it costs to say no. I know the threats. The violence. The honor killings. I know that leaving could mean losing everything, your family, your home, your children, your life. But sister, let me tell you what I've learned in these 3 years since Jesus rescued me. I've lost almost everything. My family disowned me. I can never go back to my country. I live under constant threat. I had to give up my birth name, my language, my entire identity. But I've gained everything that matters. I have a Father who will never sell me. Never hurt me. Never abandon me. I have sisters, my roommates, women all over the world, who would die for me. Who pray for me. Who remind me daily that I'm loved. I have freedom. Real freedom. Not the fake freedom of choosing which cage to live in, but the freedom to choose. To dream. To become who God created me to be. I'm in school now. Getting my education. Studying to become an engineer, the dream I had before my father tried to bury it. And you know what? I'm good at it. Because God didn't make a mistake when He gave me this brain, this curiosity, this hunger to build things. I laugh now. Real laughter. The kind that comes from deep in your belly and makes your face hurt. I didn't even know what that felt like until I met Jesus. I cry too. I'm not going to lie and say it's all beautiful. There are nights I sob for my mother. For my little sister Noor, who's still trapped in that house. For the childhood I never got to have. For the family I'll never know again. But Jesus sits with me in those moments. He doesn't give me easy answers or cheap comfort. He just stays. Catches every tear. Reminds me that He sees. That He cares. That this pain has purpose. And He's teaching me something revolutionary. Being a woman is not a curse. It's a gift. God made me female on purpose. Not as a mistake. Not as a punishment. Not as a lesser version of male. As a unique, irreplaceable, essential part of His creation. My femininity, my emotions, my nurturing heart, my relational nature, my strength that looks different than masculine strength, it's all designed. Intentional. Good. I'm not half a man. I'm not a temptation to be covered and controlled. I'm not property to be owned. I'm a daughter. Full stop. And so are you. Listen to me, sister. You, yes, you, the woman watching this right now, whatever your story is. If you're 13 and about to be married off, run. Call the police. Call a women's shelter. Call a church. Someone will help you. You are not alone. If you're 35 and been trapped for decades, it's not too late. Freedom is still possible. Jesus is still waiting. He doesn't have an expiration date on His love. If you're a mother with children, terrified to leave because you can't take them, I understand. Oh God, I understand. But sister, what are you teaching them by staying? Your daughters are watching you accept abuse and learning that's what women deserve. Your sons are watching their father hurt you and learning that's what men do. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is show them what courage looks like. Show them what freedom costs. Show them Jesus. If you're afraid of honor killing, yes, it's a real risk. I won't minimize that. But you're already dying. Just slowly. Jesus offers you life. Real life. Abundant life. Even if that life is short, it's better than decades of living death. And if you're thinking, but I'm Muslim. I've prayed to Allah my whole life. How can I just switch? Sister, I'm not asking you to switch religions. I'm asking you to meet a person. His name is Jesus. And he's been waiting for you your entire life. You don't have to understand theology. You don't have to know the right words. You don't have to clean yourself up first. Just call his name. Right now. Wherever you are. Say, Jesus, if you're real, show me. I'm desperate. I'm trapped. I'm dying. If you really see women, if you really value us, then please. Please. See me. Save me. I don't know how to do this. But I'm willing to try. That's it. That's the prayer. That's all it takes. And I promise you, I promise, he will answer. Maybe not the way you expect. Maybe not on your timeline. But he will answer. Because he's been answering desperate women for 2,000 years. The bleeding woman. The Samaritan woman. Mary Magdalene. The Canaanite mother. The woman caught in adultery. And me. 13-year-old Fatima, about to be sold to an old man, standing on a rooftop ready to die. He answered me. And he'll answer you. I'm not special. I'm not super spiritual. I'm not anything except desperate enough to believe him when he said I mattered. And you matter too. You are not worthless. You are not a burden. You are not a mistake or a curse or a punishment. You are a daughter of the Most High God. Created with purpose. Designed with intention. Loved with an everlasting love. And no one, not your father, not your husband, not your imam, not your culture, not your country, can take that away. So please, sister. Please. If you take nothing else from my story, take this. Jesus is real. He sees you. He loves you. And he's offering you freedom. All you have to do is reach out and take his hand. I did. 3 years ago on a rooftop. And it cost me everything. But I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Because living one day as his daughter is worth more than a lifetime as anyone's slave. Will you join me? Will you choose life? Will you let Jesus call you by name? I'm praying for you right now. For the woman watching this in secret on a hidden phone. For the girl about to be married off. For the mother trapped in abuse. For the daughter who's been told she's worthless. I'm praying that Jesus meets you the way he met me. That he whispers your name. That he shows you your worth. That he rescues you. And sister? When he does, and I believe he will, promise me something. Tell your story. Maybe not publicly like I'm doing. Maybe just to one other woman. One other trapped sister who needs to know there's a way out. Because that's how we win. Not by staying silent. Not by accepting our cages. But by speaking. By choosing freedom. By showing other daughters of Eve that we were never meant to be slaves. We were meant to be daughters. And daughters of the King don't bow to earthly tyrants. My name is Fatima. I was 13 when my father sold me. 13 when Jesus rescued me. 16 now, and alive. Truly, fully, gloriously alive. And if he can save me, a nobody from nowhere with nothing, he can save anyone. He can save you. Please. Let him. Your sister in Christ, Fatima. Jesus, I lift up every woman watching this. Every trapped daughter. Every silent sufferer. Every desperate heart. Meet them where they are. Show them your love. Give them courage. Rescue them. Set them free. In your name, Amen.